Today I thought I should get a little fresh breath of air, so I went to the mountains. So I hope you like this scene here. Anyway, we are here again to read another amazing letter from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And this letter today that we're going to read is about negative thoughts, temptations, and how to combat them. So the letter is written in the year of 5724 and 22nd of ER. And the letter starts with a little introduction that I'm going to skip about just a background that is not so relevant. So the person is asking about clearly issues that they have in having to deal with, um, a battle that each one of us has, which is having negative thoughts, doubts, about whatever it is we're going through our lives. So the Rebbe says the following. I'd like to make some general observations here. One, the study of the Torah and the fulfillment of the mitzvot must be in a spirit of Naaseh before Venishma, as the Torah teaches us in connection with the giving of the Torah. So the Naaseh V'Nishma is a fundamental principle in Judaism, which is the idea that we are to do and act before we even understand what it is that we are to do. Meaning that every commandment in the Torah that has been given to us, we are to do it unconditionally, without questioning it, without necessarily having to understand it. And that is what the Jews did when they came to the moment of receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. And incidentally, this Friday is going to be the giving of the Torah. In every synagogue in the morning, they will be reading the Ten Commandments. And so the Jews that were slaves for running out of Egypt up to that point, they came, and when the Torah was offered to them, they accepted it wholeheartedly, and they said, Naaseh v'nishma, that we will do, and then we will understand, because out of doing, you come to understanding. So this is a little background on it. And so the Rebbe says that in everything that you do, there has to be this approach. And he continues, in other words, there must be unconditional obedience to God in the fulfillment of his commandments. As a matter of fact, the actual performance of the commandments with such obedience gives new insight into the commandments and makes it possible to understand and grasp some of their deeper meaning and significance. So the Rebbe is saying that by undertaking this approach, you actually come to understand the inner meaning of why you are told to do these things. So we said that the Torah is a guide. It's a guide for life of a Jew, how to live their lives. And by doing these commandments and by adhering to the mitzvot and learning Torah, you will come to understand why it is you're doing what you're doing. However, just because you don't understand is not an excuse to not do away with certain commandments and to do some things and not to do other things. It has to be approached without your intellect. It has to be approached from the heart, from the soul, and just wanting to be one with God. Because when you learn Torah and you do the mitzvot in 100%, then you become one with God, and then you really come to full harmony of yourself and with your purpose in life. So the Rebbe continues and makes another point. Second point in what you are to do in your work is the following. There must be a constant effort to advance in the learning of the Torah and the fulfillment of the mitzvot with the spirit of Yiras Shamayim. Yiras Shamayim is translated as fear of heaven. And the light of the Torah and the mitzvot will steadily displace the darkness of the evil inclination, which is called the Yetzer Hara. So the Rebbe here is talking about the person's struggle when they have doubts and negative thoughts about maybe their connection to God, whether or not they want to really go further and make more of a commitment. And all these ideas, all these negative thoughts, they're all originating from your negative inclination, the darkness of it. And the way for you to combat that is to set new goals, to grow in learning Torah, to do more and more, to fulfill more mitzvot. Because a Jew should never be stagnating. It should always be on the up and up, trying to achieve new objectives, and becoming more closer to Hashem, in learning more Torah, in doing the mitzvot with more enthusiasm, happiness, and also just doing them in a better way. So when you do that, then you will always use that light. The light of the Torah will basically do away with the darkness of those negative types of thoughts. And the more that you absorb yourself into Torah and mitzvot, the less of those doubts and negative thoughts about whatever it is about your life will come about. And he says that, the Rebbe says that you have to do it with a spirit of fear of heaven. Now, a lot of times you hear the word fear and you think, oh, maybe what is it? If I don't do what God asks me to do, he's going to strike me down and I'm going to die, or whatever it is, he's going to punish me. So I heard a beautiful interpretation of what fear of heaven means, and that comes from Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson. And he said the fear of heaven is not the fear of punishment, but rather it's the fear of losing this amazing connection that you have with God, of losing this amazing world that you've built in which God inhabits. And by basically moving away from Torah and mitzvot, by doing something that is not according to the Torah, that's the fear of losing that connection that happens when you do something that is not in accordance to the will of God. And this is something that should be in the back of your mind whenever you hear that voice that is trying to turn you away from godliness, that is casting doubt and saying, who are you? What do you think? You're some righteous person? You really believe in this? This is all a bunch of hocus pocus. It's not real. You're never going to reach happiness this way. Come on, society is not doing things that way. Society doesn't believe in the Torah. Well, what are you trying to do? Something that was written thousands of years ago. So don't listen to this negative dialogue. Fill your mind with Torah. By doing more of that, you will cast away all those negative thoughts. So the next point that the Rebbe makes about how to combat negative thoughts and temptations is the following. Whatever difficulties there may be, real or imaginary, one should remember the divine assurance that he who is determined to purify himself receives help from on high. Whereas where there is a real determination to go ahead, it will soon become clear that the obstacles which loomed so great in the past are actually not so great after all, or even non-existent. So in this point, the Rebbe says something amazing, which is whenever you make an effort down here below and you say, God, I want to come closer to you. I want to be pure. I want to have a life that is healthy. I want to strive to have those character traits that are positive. I want to be generous. I want to be kind. I want to be non-judgmental. I want to be just. I want to be just like you. When you make an effort to do that, because you want to purify your life and rid it of all those negative influences and negative elements, then God will help you to achieve that goal. Always remember that a good thought is always joined by a divine action to bring that thought into actualization. So this is what the Rebbe is saying. And when you do that, soon enough, all these obstacles that seem insurmountable will fade away, and you won't even you'll think maybe they never existed, because in the end, the obstacles that your mind sets can be done away just by changing that thought. So the Rebbe continues with the next and final point on how to combat negative thoughts. And here he talks about temptation. With regard to the particular temptation which you mentioned, the way to overcome it is not through wrestling with it or engaging in mental argumentation, but rather through Eisech Hadat, which is namely whenever the thought or temptation occurs, to dismiss it from your mind at once by engaging your mind in something else which is completely unrelated to it, preferably engaging the mind in the matter of Torah and mitzvot, for even a little light dispels a lot of darkness. So the Rebbe here gives us a technique that is truly incredible. It's a technique that I use whenever I have things that come to my mind that I want to do away with. And this is something normal. These types of negative thoughts or challenges or self-doubt that we encounter, they're part of growing. You cannot grow if there's not a force of resistance. So your evil inclination, if anything, is actually a blessing. It comes to try to combat you, to see if you're going to put up a fight. So the stronger the fight, the stronger you'll emerge out of it. So the idea here is that you should not, when some negative thought comes to your mind or temptation, don't try to find arguments on how it's not good or whether you should do it or not do it. Just change the thought. Change the thought and fill your mind up, preferably, but with thoughts that are unrelated to it, which is, and the greatest way is to absorb yourself into a matter of Torah or engage yourself in a good deed. That will do away with you having to think and fatigue yourself with arguments on why this is good or not good, or sometimes you become exasperated because you're not able to let go of that thought. So the best way to let go of it is to replace it with another thought. I heard something beautiful, in Breslov Chassidut, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. It said that Hashem created us with the ability to only have one thought at a time. So that's an amazing thing, because you can replace the thought with another thought, meaning that two thoughts cannot coexist at the same time. So if you have a negative thought, you can quickly replace it by just putting another thought in your mind. So this is one very, very simple but powerful way to do away with thoughts that are negative and unhealthy. So we come to the last paragraph, and this letter was written actually around the same time of the year that we find ourselves in. And this is the time between Passover and Shavuot. It's a time in which we are counting every day. We're counting to the giving of the Torah, which is this amazing moment in which we became a Jewish nation. Because prior to that, we were slaves. And once we accepted the Torah and the commandments that come with it, we became one with God. The giving of the Torah is actually very much was like a wedding, in which God was the groom and the Jewish people were the bride. And the gift that we got, the eternal gift, is the Torah that was given to us. So we are counting in anticipation to this moment, the 49 days, and we're counting to it. And the idea is that we should be in excitement. So the Rebbe concludes and says the following: as we are in the midst of these days of the counting, you surely know that the inner aspect of counting the days of the days leading up to the giving of the Torah is to express our longing and desire for this moment, for Matan Torah, which is the giving of the Torah, which comes immediately at the end of this counting of what the counting is called the Sphira in Hebrew. It is necessary that this feeling should not remain confined to the heart, but should be expressed in the daily life in a growing devotion and diligence in the study of the Torah and the fulfillment of the mitzvot. I hope this will be your daily experience and that you will also use your good influence on your friends in this direction, in fulfillment of the teachings of our sages, that Avad Israel, loving your fellow Jew, is the greatest principle of the Torah. So the Rebbe here packs in two very important concepts, and one, which is the idea that in keeping of us counting up to this moment of the giving of the Torah, we are to add more and more in our feelings, and also our actions of having a greater and greater devotion and commitment to the Torah and to the fulfillment of the mitzvah, and taking on, like we said before, taking on new objectives on how to improve ourselves in as Jews, in refining our character traits, becoming better people, being more kind, giving, just, honest, and all these other great qualities that come with learning Torah and adhering to the commandments. And at the same time, this experience should not be limited to just you. If you learning something that is amazing in the Torah and you see how it impacts your life, share it with your friends. Try to influence them as well to go into the path of the Torah and the mitzvot, because after all, we are all accountable for one another. We are all stakeholders in each other's lives, because every Jew is really part of one huge soul, and we're all in it together. And this is why we have to love one another. And if we love the impact of the Torah on our own lives, then we should share that with our friends, so that they will also be able to experience the amazing gifts that come from living a life that is connected to the Torah and godliness. So that letter ends, and may we all fulfill all the great wisdom and advice that is shared in this letter. And until the next time when we will share another letter, have a blessed day.